All right, I'm going to grab my notes and we are going to jump into the presentation. So this is a presentation on how to get our kids to fall in love with nourishing food. I know that you guys are all, interested in yourselves in eating nourishing food and in cultivating that relationship yourself with food. But there's a whole other layer that we have when we're talking about our kids, which is how do we cultivate a healthy relationship for them, right, with nourishing food. Not just like, this is not going to be a presentation on how to sneak vegetables into dishes, stuff like that. It's about really how to get our kids to fall in love with nourishing food so they can then have that relationship going forward throughout the rest of their lives. It's a huge gift that we can give our kids. So we're going to jump into this presentation now. Okay. All right. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to need you guys to tell me if you're actually if you're seeing my presentation or not after I share the screen. Okay. So hang on. All right. I'm going to go quick through these slides because I feel like you guys really kind of know me here. Oops, that one came on out of order. So as you know, our mission with the Nourish Evolution is to inspire and equip people to make a lasting shift from processed food to real food in real life. And two of the ways that we do that is through our online meal planning program called Cook the Seasons, which several of you guys are involved with, and also our awesome Nourish Evolution 10-Day Reset, which is a video-based program that really teaches you what to eat, how to plan, and how to cook. And we actually have we haven't done a reset in a while, and we have a new one starting later this month, I believe on the 28th. So we're going to be opening that one up for sign up, we're going to be opening that one up tomorrow, I think, to sign up for it tomorrow. But we're starting it on the 28th. If you want to get on the wait list for the 10-day reset, please go to, oh my gosh, I should have the thing this. If you want to get on the wait list for this, I will send you the link. Right now, I do not have the link right on me. So I will send you the link because I'd love to get you on the wait list if you're interested in getting in. Anyway, you also know about my history where I have been a food writer and recipe developer for over 20 years for many, many, many major magazines that you guys probably have read at some point. But I went through a period before I was a food writer and recipe developer. I went through some serious health issues. I was diagnosed with lupus. I was faced with a really bad cancer scare. And this was actually, even some of it was happening while I was a food writer for some of these magazines. I was just faced with the question that many of us are of what should I be eating to nourish my body? How should I be living to nourish my body, right? And that's a picture of me on the right of the screen, eating these nourishing foods that I myself learned to fall in love with, because I knew that no matter, it didn't matter if I knew what to eat, that if I didn't actually love the foods that I was supposed to eat, that I wouldn't do it, right? So I ended up developing what I call the Nourished Evolution, which has 5 stages. We all start out in the blissfully blind prairie, and we move into the pinnacles of should angst, which is when we're kind of going from one diet to the other, trying to find the silver bullet. We realize the silver bullet doesn't exist, right? And we hit the hump, which for me came in the form of these really bad, dire health diagnoses. And it happens a lot of times for people that way, where they realize that they really, 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 really need to change, but they don't know how, right? So they end up going, looking ahead and seeing that what they want to eat, which we say, this is being nourished. It's in the land of nourish. It's lots of vegetables and whole grains cooked with healthy fats and smartly sourced proteins. And, people say, now I know how, or now I know what I want to cook. I just don't know how. So there's a period of time when you're going through these peaks and valleys of practice to learn how to cook in the way that you want so that you can, really be a vibrant person, all throughout your life, right? And these are the things that we want to teach our kids as well, right? So that's the question that we're going to be looking at today, is how do we raise our kids to love nourishing food? All right. That's what we're looking at today. First, though, I want to start with the question, and I think that this is a question that we should ask whenever we're faced with sort of diet advice, whenever we're faced with anybody, be it me or something you read in a magazine or something else. telling you something, telling you what to do, I think we should always ask this question. Why? Why should I do that? Yeah, Leah, why should I care about raising my kids to love nourishing food? Right? Good question. I'm so glad you asked. Well, I'm just going to paint some effects of junk food so that you can really understand how high the stakes are that we're talking about here. You know, it's not just, golly, wouldn't it be great if if my kid loved tomatoes? It's like, no, actually, there's a really high stake that we're talking about here. And this is something that starts to affect them early in life in their childhood, but then it will plague them and haunt them and hurt them throughout the rest of their life if they don't have, some really solid foundation for a healthy relationship with food. Okay. So first of all is obesity. Young adults who eat junk food more than twice a week gained on average 10 pounds more and had twice the insulin resistance of kids who ate it less than once, which also leads to diabetes. So insulin resistance is the precursor to diabetes. Okay. So obesity and diabetes kind of go hand in hand, especially for kids. And this is a really, really big deal. We hear about how obesity rates and diabetes rates for kids is just skyrocketing. But we kind of don't play it forward and think about what that means. And I have heard Walter Willett speak, who's a kind of famous, food scientist, food researcher, nutrition researcher. And he talks really seriously about this. And he says that we have a pipeline of obesity happening where as these kids are becoming obese and are fighting diabetes at an earlier and earlier age, the mortality rates that we're going to see in our general population as these children grow older the mortality rates are going to skyrocket, and the disease rates are going to skyrocket. And we're going to be seeing a lot of very, very sick people and, people that are not thriving, and dying because of this, right? So it's a big deal. Another thing is depression. I've got a 10-year-old daughter, my daughter Noemi, and her hormones are kicking in, and hormones are a big deal. And junk food really affects hormones, which can then bring on depression. It also, kids end up sort of malnourished when they're eating junk food and they're not eating nourishing food. And that has a big effect on your body, but also your emotional state. So one study showed that the rate of depression 58% higher in kids who ate junk food. And they think it's due to this hormonal imbalance that happens when you're eating junk food. Also a lower IQ. There's several reasons why when kids are eating junk food, it affects their studies. And we'll look at that. We'll look at the actual physiology that happens when kids eat junk food in another slide, in a later slide. And so you'll see that why it would affect their studies throughout the day or their ability to pay attention throughout the day. But it's also saying that it affects brain development. Okay. So kids who ate junk food before the age of 3 were tested 5 years later and had on average 5 points lower IQ than those who didn't. So kidney and liver damage, also all kinds of not good stuff, and a greater risk of cancer. And this is that pipeline, right? That pipeline that Walter Willett was talking about of these just running the gamut of the diseases. Okay, so this is how high the stakes are. So does everybody understand that? Does everybody buy into the stakes are high? This is something we really can't put our heads in the ground around. And nor do I think you guys have your heads in the ground. I just need to say that. I really applaud you for being here. And the fact that you're here on this webinar tells me that this is something that you do want to address. So really, bravo, that's awesome. I want to look at one more thing before we move past all of the junk and grody-ness, and that's soda, because soda also is just bad. And this is something I struggle with. My daughter, we are not a soda drinking family at all, but she drinks sodas every once in a while, as, a treat. It's just sort of an every once in a while treat. But when I'm not paying attention, I find myself saying yes way too often. And what I've found lately is we have a movie night on the weekends where we'll get pizza, we'll get soda, and we'll watch a movie. And that's what we do. That's what we do on Friday nights, right? But I found myself where we would be like, shopping for dinner during the week, and Noemi would be like, "Hey mom, can I just get one of these sodas?" And even if they're natural sodas, right? And I'd find myself being like, "Sure, all right, sure." And it's no biggie. It's not like we've got, our refrigerator stocked with soda, but I started to think about it and I was like, I think I've said yes like 3, 4, 5 times this week. And I know what the effects of soda are. So I actually really kind of had to reset that in myself recently and be like, I'm not willing to go down that path. And I even talked to Noemi about it. And I was like, babe, this is how bad it is for you. And this is why I'm saying, it's okay on the weekend once or twice, but it's not a habit we want to get into. So the reasons are, first of all, it's addictive. Soda, it's sugar, right? It's processed food, it's sugar, and it causes this reaction in our bodies that's a rush and then an adrenaline surge and then a sugar crash. And so our bodies want more and more and more of it to get that rush and that adrenaline surge. So it does have addictive properties. And then the statistics are just crazy. For each additional 2 sodas a day, the risk of obesity triples. And obesity isn't just, not being able to fit into jeans that other friends are wearing or something like that. Obesity means all of those diseases that we just looked at throughout the rest of their life that they will be struggling with that. So obesity is a big deal. This is when you read about, studies where it's like men or women or children. It's just that they happen to study that particular group of people. So you can kind of take this as the study studied men, but you can take it as in general. Men who drink a sugary drink each day, so to drink a sugary drink each day, have a 20% greater chance of having a heart attack. Crazy. Children who grow up drinking sodas have an 80% greater chance of developing type 2 diabetes. Right? I mean, this all is fitting together, right? So you can see how all of this fits together. So this, actually, I should have done these in opposite. And I have 2 slides in here, which I should have done opposite. So first, we're going to talk about what our bodies do with whole grains. Okay, so when our bodies hit whole grains or even whole foods, we can actually even look at this as just whole foods in general. I have it shaped as a grain. Which is one of the food groups that we want to be looking at. And a whole grain, I see the picture of it over on the left. It has 3 parts to it. So on the outside is the fibrous coating. In fact, hang on, is the fibrous coating. And on the inside, the fibrous coating is called the bran. On the inside, which the bulk of it is what's called an endosperm, and that's primarily starch. And then the little yellow piece is the germ. And the germ and the bran is the bran is really where the bulk of the fiber is in a whole grain. The bran is where the bulk of the protein is, and they both have a bunch of different nutrients in there. The endosperm is essentially starch, okay? So what happens when we're consuming whole grains or whole foods in general? Our bodies hit that fibrous coating, and it takes a little while for them to break through that fibrous coating. And then it's got some glucose in there, which is the glucose is the endosperm, is that starch. Okay, the starch is made up of glucose molecules. Glucose molecules, our bodies chow through them. If you picture Pac-Man, right? Picture Pac-Man going and gobbling up all of those glucose squares. Okay, that's kind of what our bodies do with glucose squares. It's like food. It is food, but it doesn't have any nutritional value to it. So it's energy. It's like straight energy, okay? And then along with that, we've got from the germ and from the bran, we've got phytonutrients, which I'll talk about in a little bit, and we've got antioxidants, and we've got vitamins and minerals. And so our body digests all of that as it's, eating through the fiber and the glucose, okay? So we've got all of those pieces. And what happens is that because it's breaking all of that down, it's happening in a very measured, very balanced way. So there are none of those crazy spikes that we were talking about earlier, okay? Kayla, thank goodness for SodaStream. You can still get the fizz without the junk. Amen to SodaStream. Totally. Bubbles are the best part of a soda. Totally. And you know what? The LaCroix, 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 we love those. They're like flavored water, but there's no sugar. It's not, nothing crazy in there at all. Glenn, is it possible to get a copy of the slides? I'd like to show them to my husband and son. I'm so glad you asked that, Glenn. Yay. I'll tell you what, we're going to have a replay of this. So you can actually show them the whole replay and they can, go through it. Okay. Any questions on how our bodies deal with whole grains and whole foods and how this kind of all works together? Okay. Let me know if anybody has any questions to that. Okay. So now I'm going to show you what our bodies do with refined grains, and we can apply this to straight up refined grains like white flour, white sugar, but we can also apply it to things like soda, because soda is basically all those little squares of glucose. Now notice, there are no, you're welcome, Glenn. There's no fibrous coating on there, right? No fibrous coating. There's no nutrients. There's no like little bubbles of nutrients in there. I'm going to go back a slide and you'll see, right? The phytonutrients, the antioxidants, the vitamins, the minerals, those are all gone, right? When we get into this one. So what happens is with this, our blood sugar spikes because it's eating up all the glucose molecules. Our body's just going, oh, it's the Pac-Man with the glucose molecules. So our blood sugar spikes. That causes our insulin to spike, to lower the blood sugar because it's dangerous for our blood sugar to be so high. And then our adrenaline spikes to shoot the blood sugar down. Insulin spike and adrenaline spike to shoot the blood sugar down, right? So then the blood sugar drops and then we feel exhausted and tired and we've got that that blood sugar drop hangover kind of thing, right? So that means our body then wants more of it. So then it goes in and tries to get another fix of it. And what happens when our body is constantly doing that, to keep up the metaphor of video games, I actually call this one like the Galaxiga, because our body is like constantly trying to shoot down this spiking blood sugar, and it comes crashing down and then shooting up and then crashing down and shooting up. And so when our body is constantly going through this Galaxiga scenario, we end up developing insulin resistance, right? And so that is the precursor, remember, to diabetes and all of these other things. So it's really a big issue when we're eating refined foods instead of whole foods. And especially when we're looking at our kids' diets, it's so easy. Like I just said, I was starting to slide with Noemi and sodas. It's so easy to make the slide because they're just hammering us all the time with, everything, asking us if they can eat this and do this. And can I do this? Can I do this? So it's really easy to make that slide, but this is why it's really important not to. Okay. Hang on just a second here. So when we're looking at, we looked at the refined grains and things, but when we're looking at whole plant-based foods, there is a whole lot of good going on. Okay. So beyond the proteins and the carbs and the fats that we talk about all the time, and that are on the nutritional label of packaged goods, and even beyond the vitamins and minerals like vitamin C and zinc and things like that we're familiar with, there is a whole realm of things called phytonutrients. And those are, phyto means plant. So these are literally nutrients that are specific to plants. And phytonutrients are what give plant-based foods their flavor, their smell, and their taste. They're also powerhouse antioxidants and antibiotics and anti-inflammatories and cancer preventing. So they're incredibly, incredibly powerful, even though we don't really understand them. When I'm talking to scientists, to food scientists who are coming up with all of these studies, right? They always tell me, hang on just a second, I'm about to run out of juice on my iPad. They're actually very quick to say that they don't understand all that's going on with, hang on just a second, sorry about this. They don't understand all that's going on with phytonutrients, but they do know how incredibly powerful they are. And I have this number up here of 10,000 to 1 because phytonutrients outnumber macronutrients, the ones that we know about, by 10,000 to 1. Okay. Crazy, 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 right? So, I have this theory. I'm going to tell you about as I plug in my iPad, which just died. My theory is that, whenever we talk about superfoods and Hang on. And, you know, everybody's all excited about superfoods. So this is my theory on superfoods. I think whenever we hear about a new superfood, I think what it really is that we've just discovered, scientists have just discovered then something about a food, or have discovered more about the phytonutrients in a food and understand the cocktail of phytonutrients that are in that food a little bit better, so that they can really kind of quantify and be really specific about the benefits that a food brings. So my theory is that all plant-based foods are actually superfoods. We just can't necessarily get really super duper specific on all of them because we don't know the specifics yet, but that doesn't mean that they're not superfoods. These phytonutrients actually make these foods superfoods. All right, onward. So let's start out with a definition of healthy food, okay? I define healthy food as something that doesn't do you harm and does do you good, okay? So we've now gotten to the point where I think we can all agree that, behind the why of why it's important to raise our kids eating healthy food, and even agree on what the food is doing to our bodies. That's just everything I presented is just facts. It's not my opinion, it's facts. You know, I've been a food writer for over 20 years and have spoken with many, world-renowned scientists all over the world. I mean, from Harvard, from Penn, from University of Athens, from you name it, okay? So this is all just facts. So now the question is how? How do we get our kids programmed? That our kids are like already kind of pre-programmed, it seems sometimes, to go, ew, when we're looking at broccoli and cauliflower and Brussels sprouts and stuff. So how do we reprogram them, to really love and fall in love with nourishing food? So first of all, I think it's really important to understand what's going on when our kids say, ew, okay? So when kids go, ew, they're actually not saying that they don't like a food. They're just reacting to the fact that it's unfamiliar, okay? So acceptance of specific food items increases with repeated neutral, which we'll come back to this word neutral, exposure, okay? Typically, it takes about 10 to 20 exposures. I've heard 17 as being the sort of general accepted average. But how many exposures do you think that we mothers typically decide, that our kids don't like something, right? And stop. I'm curious to know if you guys, how many you think. The answer is we typically stop after just 3 exposures, okay? So 3 times our kids will go, ew, and we'll be like, oh, they must not like that food. And we'll stop trying, we'll stop giving it to them, just assuming that they don't like it. But that's not the case. The deal is they just haven't hit that 17 exposures yet. So we don't necessarily know that they don't like it. So another good news about this is exposure doesn't just mean tasting something. It means exposure to all 5 senses. So literally, if you're cooking, Brussels sprouts and they're sizzling in some olive oil and salt and pepper and things like that, just that sizzle is actually an exposure, okay? So the sizzles, the crunches, the smelling the way it smells, the touching it, the tasting it, those are all exposures. Those all count, every sense, okay? So it's not like you have to put the same food cooked the same way in front of your child 17 times. That's actually another thing, is that if your child doesn't like food cooked a certain way, try it a different way. That's something we'll get to a little bit later as well. So the other secret is to chill. This is like your job, our job. Our job as parents is to chill. The key to letting our kid attempt all those exposures, the 17 exposures, to create an atmosphere of experimentation that is totally uncharged. So that's that neutral, okay? So how do we create this uncharged atmosphere, this neutral atmosphere? Because that is key. We all know our kids, right? And especially as they start to get older, and your kids are about in this age range. So when I say this, I think you're gonna be like, oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. If we're not careful, food becomes a power tool for them. And for those of you with sons, that might mean a little something different. But if we're not careful, food is a way for kids to wield power, by denying a food or by saying, I'm not going to eat that, or ew, or whatever it is. If we react to it, it gives them power in the wrong way, in a bad way. So if we react to it, it gives them negative power, and they start to use that in these power struggles. Okay, they start to use food in these power struggles. So here are some techniques to help create and maintain this neutral environment. Okay, these are what I call my 3 golden rules, and I have to remember these all the time with Noemi. So one is try one bite. Okay, this is not about making your kids and the clean, eat things, eat everything on the plate. It's not about a clean plate club. The clean plate club does not work. We're going to go with the nourishing kids club instead of the clean plate club. But encouraging an atmosphere, encouraging a habit, and even just sort of a family culture where it's try one bite is really, really, really important. The way that I like to do this with kids, myself and my own and others, is to tee it up as being a food adventurer. Okay, so instead of like it being you trying to get them to do what you want them to do, it becomes, don't you want to know don't you just want to know? Or do you want to just be a little bit adventurous? Let's just be a little bit adventurous and just try one bite, because you just never know what's on the other side. So teeing it up with this, becoming a food adventurer. There was a time when I was teaching a bunch of teenagers in Guatemala, and they had this wonderful, wonderful dried chili powder there called chili coban. And so we were making, what were we making? Oh, I think it was roasted sweet potato or sauteed sweet potato or something. And I was teaching them how to caramelize the sweet potato, and they were excited about that. And then I said, okay, we're going to top it with this chili coban, with a sprinkle of the chili coban. And all of them, 2 of 1, made a face and did the ew. And I was like, what? I stopped and I went, whoa, what's up with this? I was like, have you guys ever tried chili coban? And they were like, no, never tried chili coban. And I was like, okay. So how can you say you don't like it then? And they're like, we just know we don't like it. And I was like, well, wait a second. We're going to be food adventurers here, and what do adventurers do? If they're going to a new place, do they say, no, I'm not going to like that place? Then how do you know? Well, because I just know. Or do they forge into these new places and, try it and push the boundaries and, take steps into the unknown? And the more we talked about what it would mean to be a food adventurer, the more on board they got, So then one took a bite of the chili coban, and then another took a bite with the chili coban. And I said, what, I'm making 2 plates here. I'm going to put chili coban in one and leave another one plain. And soon enough, all of them had tried the chili coban, and they went in for seconds and thirds and fourths. And the entire plate with the sauteed sweet potato with the chili coban was gone. And then the kids, instead of eating the plain one, they took the chili coban and topped the plain one with it. So it really was a matter of, adopting this whole mantle of being a food adventurer. Okay, so try that with your kiddo when you're teeing up this try one bite, and really just have it be something that is an adventure that your whole family is going on, rather than something negative that you're trying to impose upon your kid. So try and tee up this try one bite culture within your family as a food adventurer. Okay. Next one is opt out language. One other thing I want to say with the try one bite is it's also important. Actually, no, we'll get onto that in a second. The second golden rule is opt-out language. Okay, so, kids' sort of natural instinct and what they learn from their other friends is to say, ooh, I don't like it. But as soon as they say, I don't like it, and especially when they're at the age that a lot of our kids are at, once they say, I don't like it, then they have put a stake in the ground. And they need to save face by keeping that consistency. Because then if they go back and they change their mind, then they're going to kind of lose face, So it's important to have language that we use within our families that still leaves the door open, okay? That doesn't shut that door to where they feel like they can't go through and try it again, okay? So this is language like, I haven't learned to like it yet, or I just don't prefer that right now. And that is language that is uncharged, it's neutral, it leaves the door open, because if they haven't learned to like it yet, as a food adventurer, they're going to be trying one bite again and again and being exposed multiple times to these foods. And so they may actually change their mind, and that's cool. And you will totally be super psyched when that happens. Or if they say, I don't really prefer that right now, that's fine. That's just acknowledging this just isn't my thing right now, and you don't need to do anything. You don't need to have any reaction to this when they use that kind of language. Just, oh, okay. All right. And so how do you do, what do you give them? How do you deal with this? You actually make sure that you have variety and fallbacks on the table. So one thing I want to make sure that we're really, really super clear on is that when I say fallbacks, I don't mean if your child says, I haven't learned to like this yet, that you go, okay, let me make you a grilled cheese sandwich. Or, okay, let me go make you some mac and cheese. This is not about becoming a short order cook. And when your child, decides to opt out, that you're going to go and cook something else for them. All it means is that the one thing that they tasted on their plate, they took that one bite, they weren't quite down with it yet. But that's okay, because you've got a variety on the plate that they can choose to eat, that they can pick and choose from this variety on the plate, okay? And also fallbacks. If I'm cooking something new, and I'm not 100% sure how it's going to go down with Noemi, I will be sure and have a fallback on the plate as well, or on the table as well. That's something that I know that she'll like. So that gives her, that way I'm framing this whole kind of recipe for success for her, because I can encourage her to try one bite of the new thing. And if she likes it, great, onward, If she doesn't, she can use opt-out language and say, I'm glad I tried it. I've not learned to like this yet. And I go, okay, that's cool. And then she can fall back to whatever is safe and comfortable for her on that plate, right? But what will have happened? What will have happened here? I will have gotten that exposure to that new food in. Noemi will have gotten that exposure to that new food, okay? So I'm actually going to give an example of how all this went down with Brussels sprouts with Noemi. So Brussels sprouts, when kids, people are always asking kids like, oh, what's your favorite food? What's your favorite color? What's your blah, blah, blah. So when people would ask Noemi, what's your least favorite food? Like, what food do you hate the most? And for some reason, people love asking my daughter that, because I happen to be a Nourish evangelist. So they love asking my daughter what food she hates the most, which is terrible. But she used to answer unequivocally Brussels sprouts. That was her answer, Brussels sprouts. And so one day I was making Brussels sprouts. I was working on a recipe for Cook the Seasons these are mustard coated Brussels sprouts with, with crispy mustard breadcrumbs or something like that. Crispy breadcrumbs. So, so, so good. So I was making this, and Noemi had a friend over, Kaylee, who also was not into Brussels sprouts, but she was definitely kind of, I think, reacting to, Noemi was not using the opt-out language. When I was cooking the Brussels sprouts, she was telling Kaylee how much she hates Brussels sprouts. Okay. So I was like, whatever. Okay. And so when they were done, I took a bite, and it was so good. My whole face just went like, oh my gosh, these are so good. And I was saying it just because I was excited about it and I was enjoying it. And Noemi was like, Mom, that actually, it smells pretty good. I was like, it is good. I was like, you want to take a bite? She's like, no. I'm like, sure. I mean, it's right here. You could just take a bite, see if you like it. She's like, okay, I'll just take one bite. So she took a bite, and she was like, oh my gosh, Mom, that's actually really good. Can I take another bite? I was like, no, yeah, sure, if you want to. Yeah, but it's dinner, so sure. She takes another bite. And then she's like, Mom, and her friend is watching as all this is going on, right? And then she's like, Mom, can I take this to the table? Can I eat the rest of this? Can Kaylee and I have the rest of this? So she and her friend Kaylee ended up polishing off this entire bowl of Brussels sprouts, right? And this from a girl who 5 seconds earlier vowed that she hated Brussels sprouts. So that's how powerful this whole 3 golden rules are. Okay. So I want to tell you 5 more ways to stack the deck. We've got our 3 golden rules, and those are things that are just, they're sort of the non-negotiables. They're the things that never go away. It's the culture that you create in your family. Okay. And so that's a culture that you create in your family with the 3 golden rules. But here are 5 more ways to stack the deck to make it easier to get kids to fall in love with nourishing food. Okay. Any questions up till now? Any questions, guys? I just want to see if there's any questions before I move on. All right, let me know if there are any questions, and we'll keep forging on. Okay. All right. So 5 more ways to stack the deck. One is to get kids involved. Anytime kids are involved with any part of making a meal, they are multiple times more likely to actually eat and enjoy that meal. I found it very interesting. Julia, all makes sense? Yeah, this is like, it's not like none of this is rocket science. It's just interesting to put it all together, and have it right in front of us, right? So I found it interesting. I think, some of you guys know that on Tuesday nights, we've been doing a Facebook Live called Huber Tuesdays. And it's where I invite you into my home on Tuesday night at 6 o'clock Pacific. And we go live, like no matter what's going on. And normally I literally have walked in the door 5 minutes before, and I'm like kind of just foraging. And I either have a meal mapper that I'm working off of that, through Cook the Seasons, or I'm, just punting. But I think what's so interesting is I've noticed that when Noemi joins me on those Huber Tuesdays, and she's in the kitchen and she's helping me cook, or even if she's just kind of watching me cook and kind of just hamming it up on the screen, she will sit down and be so psyched about that meal and will be very positive about it from the beginning, versus if she's in her room and is, just sort of closed off from the whole scenario, then she's not as likely to be enthusiastic about the meal. And it doesn't really matter what the food is. It's really about the level of involvement that she has in it. Okay. So this could mean whether you get your kids involved in gardening or in going to the farmer's market with you. It could be at that stage of like, or picking things up at the market with you, can you go get me 2 onions? Can you go get me a pound of mushrooms? Getting them involved in that stage of actually procuring the food. It can be getting them involved in the prep stage. I know, a lot of you guys have, Julia, my 20-month-old grandson is my official salad spinner operator. See? Oh, Tracy, I'm glad you like the live videos. Thank you. I know it's our tagline for the Huber Tuesdays is, it ain't always pretty. And Julia, so salad spinning, perfect example. Even young kids can help, clean lettuce. They love like spinning that lettuce clean or spinning it dry. Noemi, from a very early age, I think even 3 years old, maybe even younger, I taught her how to zip kale and Swiss chard leaves off the stem. And, that became kind of her job. And she was able to really own a piece of the meal then, and she ended up loving those dishes. So anytime that you can get your kids involved at any stage of the process, the more and more likely they are to enjoy the meal. Okay. So that's number 1. Number 2, make the meal colorful and fun. I find it fascinating that these fast food companies and processed food companies have multiple, billion-dollar budgets to market to our children. They're putting billions of dollars in thinking up ways to market to our kids and to make their food colorful and fun and what our kids want to put in their mouths. So that just to me says that we need to spend a little bit of time and a little bit of brain power in how to market our food, our nourishing food, how to market it to kids. The good news is we've got a leg up because, real food is beautiful. So, point it out to your kids. If you're making a beautiful salad, ooh and ah over how beautiful it is, ask them, do they think it's beautiful? Ask them, what their favorite color on the plate is. Make it fun, right? And it's also, I find that even different shapes works. So, if you can make like rolls instead of quesadillas, or anytime you can sort of add a little garnish to make it a little more interesting, just make it colorful and fun in any way you can. Also to make it interactive, especially for the younger kiddos, things like dipping foods or finger foods. Anytime you can make it interactive, it's going to get them to buy in. This definitely is more for the little kids, but I think it still is effective even for older kids, to do, if you're making chicken, you might want to do chicken legs, so they can pick up the chicken legs and eat them, right? If you're doing, some kind of a salad, maybe it's like you do romaine leaves and then have them dip the romaine leaves in the dressing or something like that, right? Also, I like naming things. And this, again, more so for the younger kids, but naming them things, something whimsical. So instead of like celery sticks, call them celery canoes, I like to say celery canoes with figgy goat cheese. Stir some chopped dried figs into goat cheese and put it in a celery canoe. Instead of calling something, egg salad, call it a Humpty Dumpty salad. Name it something whimsical. This again gets at like, how can we market our nourishing food? Okay. Packing it in something cool also helps. So there's all kinds of cool like bento boxes out there. Eco lunchboxes. It's called ecolunchboxes.com. They have fantastic, cool, kind of stackable and nestable lunchboxes. And it's definitely helps get our kids to be more interested in what's in those boxes. It makes it kind of a game. Okay. So think of altering and experimenting with the whole presentation of more nourishing food rather than just writing it off, Another thing that we touched on earlier is trying different methods of cooking various foods. So if your child doesn't like, steamed broccoli, that doesn't mean they're not going to like roasted broccoli. If they don't like boiled carrots, I still don't really like carrots in soup because they're mushy, but I love roasted carrots, or sauteed carrots. So try, if you get I haven't learned to like that yet, try a different way of cooking that ingredient and see if that hits a little bit better. Okay. Here are 5 ways to make it easier on you. Been talking about your kiddos, but here's 5 ways to make it easier on you. Okay. Number 1, start on Sunday. So if you can, and for those of you guys who are part of Cook the Seasons, this is, and even in the 10-day reset, with Cook the Seasons, this is the pattern that we do, is we start on Saturday or Sunday, and we do a larger cook for the week of what we call core recipes. So we mix and match these simple core recipes for a meal, and then we reinvent them later on in the week. We reuse them later on in the week, okay? So starting on Sunday, if you can do kind of a bigger cook so that you have these leftovers to work with and component parts throughout the week, that's a big, big thing. Take 10 to plan. You'd be so surprised at how much smoother your week will go if you take 10 minutes to plan it out. And I'm going to up the ante on that one, especially if you're a Cook the Seasons member. And if you are not a Cook the Seasons member yet and you want to check it out, go to cooktheseasons.com and you can check out that page there, and you can request an invite if you'd like to. But we specifically designed Cook the Seasons to be very, very visual, to be like kind of like scrolling through Pinterest, but with food. And one of the reasons we did that is because I wanted to make it very interactive and very appealing to children, to kids. So even though I'm not, a big proponent of like sit your kid down in front of your iPad and, let them have at it, I am a big proponent to, sit down with your kid with Cook the Seasons on your iPad, or hand your iPad over to your kid with Cook the Seasons on it and be like, hey, you want to plan the week? And you take 10 minutes or less and plan out your week. And again, if your kiddo can help you do this, they're going to be, that goes back to that, get your kids involved. They're going to be more invested. They've helped make that plan. When that plan is printed out, is hanging on the fridge, they're going to be psyched about that plan. They might even be like, hey, Mom, we said we were having cauliflower tots tonight. Dang it. We got to have cauliflower tots, So really, really important and a big help there. Mix and match, like we talked about. Well, these two, mix and match and cook once, eat twice. So mixing and matching those simple component parts, those core recipes, oftentimes, like I said, I like to do it over a weekend for one meal, and then reinventing those core recipes into reinvention recipes for really super easy pull together dishes later on in the week. That will make life so much easier. And then also freeze. Use your freezer as a really, really awesome piece of equipment in your fridge. Okay. So if you have leftovers, extra leftovers of those core ingredients or extra leftovers of those reinvention recipes, freeze them. Or even you might want to plan on extra leftovers for ones that freeze well. And then you'll have that for times when you're a little too busy and you just want to be able to pull something out of the freezer and defrost it. That's a nourishing meal that you've already made. That's like a get out of jail free, or a do not pass, or a pass and go. Whatever that analogy is with Monopoly, that's what it is. Okay. So again, if you need help cultivating these practices, get on the wait list for the 10-day reset, which is going on sale tomorrow and starting on the 28th. Or request an invite for Cook the Seasons. Okay. And I will look up the URL for the 10-day reset, and I will send it to you guys if you want to get on the wait list for that. So the other thing that kind of goes without saying, but I'm gonna put it out there because I think we do need to say it, is that healthy food, nourishing food, part of what makes it nourishing is it's got to taste good, right? So if we're putting steamed broccoli or mushy green beans on our kids' plates and expecting them to be enthusiastic about it, it's not going to happen because we're not going to be enthusiastic about it. I wouldn't be enthusiastic about those foods, right? So it's not about hiding vegetables and things. It's not about, shoving vegetables onto their plates. It's about truly cultivating this lifelong relationship with food that's going to nourish our kids long after they're out from under our influence. Okay. Julia says, once you get into the reinvention habit, bits and pieces of leftovers suddenly come together for another meal. Isn't it amazing? It's the game changer. It's a complete game changer. So these are the kind of meals we're talking about. In fact, that cauliflower over there to the left, that has transformed picky adults. Several picky adults that I know said that they hated cauliflower, and I was like, just give me a shot. Let me give it one shot. And I made this for them, which is roasted cauliflower, so yummy, like creamy inside, with a faux aioli, and they just went gaga. So these are the kinds of things that we want to be serving our kiddos. So part of the reason I'm saying that and saying why we need to serve foods that are not just, that are interesting and compelling for our kids, but also for us, because our kids' lifetime relationship with food is formed by how we eat, which is a big deal. So Jen, you hated cauliflower. Yeah, right? I did too. I did too. I hated beets. In fact, gosh, we went back to that. I hated everything on this slide except for the meat. When I was a kid, when I was 30, when I was 32, I wouldn't have eaten any of those things. So I think I always joke that I think that's part of the reason that kids love everything that we have with Cook the Seasons is because I'm essentially like a picky kid, so I make these foods in a way that I want to eat them. So Julia, Cook the Seasons finally got me to eat Swiss chard, see, which I swore I hated. Now I can't get enough of the Swiss chard with garlic and chili. Oh my gosh, I love that one. I know, I'm really excited to eat more of that as we move into cool weather again. Psyched. But this is, you know, this is really what it comes down to, is that the only way that we are going to nurture a healthy relationship with food for our kids is by nurturing a healthy relationship with food for ourselves. Okay. So I've already talked to you guys about Cook the Seasons, Nourish 10-Day Resets. Let me know, pop up here. I know that a lot of you guys are already in Cook the Seasons, but let me know if anybody wants to get on the wait list for the 10-day resets, because I'll get that to you, because I do want to get that to you now, after this, because like I said, it's going on sale tomorrow and it's starting on the 28th, and we haven't done one in months. So if you want in, I would definitely get in. It's a fantastic video-based program where I'm in your kitchen, in my kitchen. I'm in my kitchen, but I'm on your screen. It's like we're in the kitchen together, learning these practices, putting these practices to work day in, day out, day in, day out. So it's really awesome. And I'm going to give you guys, hang on. My 3 golden rules again. Okay. So there's a recap of the 3 golden rules. Don't forget these. This is the culture that we're setting in our homes, right? The try one bite, the opt-out language, and the variety and fallbacks. Okay. So remember that the key is no pressure and no giving in. Okay. And stick with these golden rules. All right. And I've got a code here. Webinar is the code for a $10 discount for either Cook the Seasons or the 10-day reset. So whichever one you want to join, if you haven't already joined either of them or both of them, go ahead and use webinar for either or both of them, and you'll get a $10 discount. Okay? Awesome, awesome. So Tracy, you'd love to do it? Excellent. I'll get you guys the URL. I need to just make a URL that is Nourish 10-Day Reset, but alas, we don't have that yet. And do you get a discount if you're Cook the Seasons members? Juliet, very good question. We got this discount here for you, this webinar one, which is a good one to use. So you can just go ahead and use that one. All right. Okay, you guys, I think that's it. I'm going to stop sharing. Hang on just a second. Thank you for sticking with me on this, you guys. I will send you the URL for signing up for the Cook the Seasons waitlist. And thank you for sticking through all of the various tech glitches and things like that. Any questions before we go? We covered a lot of ground. We got our 3 golden rules. We had 5 additional ways to stack the deck. We had 5 ways to make your life easier. We talked about, how this is just as important for us. It's just as important to have a healthy relationship with food for us as it is for our kids, because we're really what's dictating the future of the way that our kids eat. So any other questions before we sign off? I really appreciate you sticking here with me and being here with me. Let's see, I'm going to hang on here. Where can we find out more info about what the reset is? I sent the link for the webinar by a friend. Oh, okay. Oh, Jen. Oh, I'm so glad that you're part of the fold here. Patty, you're so welcome. Jen, I'm going to get you the link to sign up for the waitlist. And the waitlist page doesn't really have much on it, but tomorrow when it opens up for sale, I'll have a page up there that has a lot more information. There's no commitment to anything for signing up for the waitlist. It just is a way that I can then reach you and, let you know that it is indeed for sale and this is more information about it. So once you get on the waitlist, you'll find, you'll have access to more information about the 10-day reset, if that makes sense. So let me get you the link. Let me get you the link for that. In fact, let me just do that. I'm going to do that right now. See, this is my team is normally here doing all the behind the scenes stuff. They were all busy tonight, so I'm on my own. So now instead of being like, Chris, can you get that link? I'm having to do it all by myself. Okay, I can get this link for you now. Well, Jen, I'm so glad you joined us, though. And this will also, Jen, we'll put you on the list for our weekly email. So I send out an email each week with nourishing inspiration and fresh recipes for you. So that's something that we send out each week, and then also kind of let you know when things are coming up and stuff like that. So yes, and tomorrow is Huber Thursday. Thank you, Julia, for reminding me. June sent you. Awesome, Jen. I'm going to send June a little thank you. So our Huber Tuesday this week, because I was out of town last night, is on Thursday. So we're having a Huber Tuesday on Thursday this week. So that'll be tomorrow night. And I have to say, I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do because I was out of town for 2 nights and I've been in the office all day. And so I haven't really thought too much about dinner for tomorrow. So we're gonna see. Oh, Kayla, good God, you're awesome. Thank you. I was just trying to get in there. Thank you. So Kayla just posted the to sign up for the wait list. Kayla, you rock and roll. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, it is on Facebook, isn't it? I suppose I could have done that on the volunteer team. I like that. We could just make that official, man. So great. So there's the link. Thank you for posting, Kayla. It's nourishevolution.com/ N like Nancy 10DR-E. Easier if you just go to that link that Kayla just posted there. And another thing, Jen, I would say, Kayla just reminded me too. We're on Facebook. So if you go to Nourish Evolution on Facebook, and you can keep track of us there as well. So that's where the links and all that stuff are too. So you'll be able to keep track of us there as well. So awesome. Yay, you guys. Well, thank you again. Feel free to ping me with any questions. Ping me on Facebook if any other questions come up or any other thoughts come up, okay? And I will also post the replay link on Facebook, okay? So do go to our Facebook group to look for the replay link for that as well, okay? Alrighty. Not sure what part of it is all going to go with the replay link. I'm very curious to see. We'll have to see if it just sort of like blanked out when my computer went kerplunk, but we'll see. Okay, awesome. Kayla, you are awesome. Thank you. So Kayla just posted the Facebook link there for our Nourish Evolution Facebook page. Thank you. Excellent, you guys. Well, I'm going to head home to my family and make dinner myself. So, and I'm going to do all of what we just talked about. So I'm going to go home and say, all right, Noemi, what should we make tonight? This is what we have. So, awesome. All right, you guys. Thanks for being here. Be nourished.